As you can see at the very top of the page, telecommunications has come a very long way from the invention of the telegraph in 1838 to the invention of smartphones with 4G capability in today's world. Telecommunications is defined as exchange of information or the communication between two or more entities with the use of technology. Telecommunications is a universal term used for a vast range of information transmitting devices such as mobile phones, landlines, and broadcast networks such as the BBC. Moving on to the internet. The internet plays a fairly large role in telecoms, giving us the capability to share information and communicate with people across the globe effortlessly. It has revolutionized the computer and communications world significantly, and moreover opened up various business opportunities to provide high-speed connectivity to customers all across the world. The invention of the telegraph, telephone, radio, and computer set the stage for unprecedented integration of capabilities, and in the world we live in, those technologies have been transformed over the years into modern necessities that we simply cannot live without. There are a number of organizations that surround the telecommunications industry, such as the fixed phone lines industry, the broadcast transmission industry like the BBC, Capital FM, and TalkSport, International Trunks Organization, which focuses on manufacturing the actual fiber optic cables and wires, thus making it possible to surf the web and stream videos at incredible speeds depending on your provider. TalkTalk, which is a company of choice, fits into the telecommunications industry mainly as an internet service provider, though it does provide other telecom-based services such as fixed phone lines, mobile phones, SIM cards, and television subscriptions, amongst other services. TalkTalk started as a part of the Carphone Warehouse group, and in less than 10 years, it became one of the UK's leading companies, although the recent cyber attack has made a noticeable negative impact on their overall brand.
Engineers based on the field require tools and materials when they need them. This is a crucial factor because, for instance, if engineers do not have the correct resources needed to carry out their operations, this could affect their reputation, and this could have a negative reflection on the quality of service delivered. Business customers and individual consumers, i.e. B2B, need products and services delivered on time so they can be able to provide the services needed to drive their businesses. For instance, if TalkTalk provide connectivity and network solutions to a business, there are some interference with the performance of the service that you're providing to the business. That may have a knock-on effect on the ability of the business customer to deliver his daily operations, which could result in potential profit loss for both parties during this downtime. This is something TalkTalk have had to consider in recent weeks. As demand grows, a consideration of supplying this demand to consumers is essential for the growth of the business, as this usually means that the audience in which your business is aimed at has been recognized and targeted. However, after that, once the demand has not been satisfied, the more risk you run in losing potential customers. All these needs are requirements which TalkTalk have had to ensure that their independent supply chain meets sufficiently and in a way which allows both parties at the B2B or the B2C chain. Establishing the needs of the end users through some sort of requirement specification or service level agreement, and identifying a system or a method in which internal people inside the business can create the best customer experience to meet the quality of service agreed. This has meant that TalkTalk have had to rethink their logistics and how products and equipment are delivered to end users. For instance, TalkTalk have had deployed technology systems such as Oracle application to help them in the process of logistics be more sufficient in delighting to the customer. The result in implementing technology capabilities to help with specific deliverables such as logistics within a supply chain may be greater efficiency for TalkTalk, but however this must be beneficial or differentiated service to its customers and engineers. Through many other technology, TalkTalk have been able to halve cycle times for the delivery of products to consumers, which has reduced cost base in their logistics area of their supply chain. The use of TalkTalk utilizing technology such as cloud computing and big data has also meant that there has been a reduction of mistakes made, leading to better decision making. For instance, cloud computing makes remote management possible, whereby end users have synchronized and updated versions of tracking information on when their products will be delivered. Real-time data analytics makes it easier for TalkTalk to identify issues before they become critical.
When running organisations such as TalkTalk, it's important to make sure that everything runs smoothly without disruption or outage. In order to do this, business continuity, disaster recovery and crisis management are used. So what is business continuity? The Business Continuity Institute defines business continuity as the capability of the organisation to continue delivery of products or services at acceptable predefined levels following a disruptive incident. What does this mean? BCM is concerned with minimising or removing threats and risks towards an organisation. It's concerned with making sure an organisation is kept running by focusing on critical activities an organisation needs to provide its key functions, products and services. BC enables an organisation to continue trading during a disruptive and recover afterwards. The first step of BCM is to understand the organisation aims and objectives. Environmental constraints are identified here. The next step is the development of the BCM strategies. What will be done in the event of an incident to minimise disruption? The next stage of the life cycle is the development of the BCM plans. The plans are in line with the initial BCM policy and fit with the BCM strategies. The plans are used to outline the resources and actions required in order to minimise the impact of an incident, so normal business processes may return. They outline who will take responsibility for each critical function during an incident. The next stage of BCM is to take into consideration cultural changes. In the event of cultural change, does the current BCM strategy and plans still function correctly? The final stage is to practice and rehearse the whole process. Now that we know what business continuity management is, let's move on to disaster recovery. DRM is defined as the process an organisation uses to recover access to their software, data and or hardware that need to resume the performance of normal critical business functions after either the event of a natural disaster or a disaster caused by humans. DRM mainly focuses on the resolution of IT infrastructure issues in the event of an incident. DRM is related to BCM, as some of the BCM plans will cross over into data disaster recovery, as will some of the DR plans into BCM. They coexist with one another in the event of a disaster. Some concepts of DR are maximum tolerable disruption, how long can a critical function be down before it's irreversible, the recovery time objective, the time stated that a function must be active again within, and the recovery point objective, the amount of data that can be lost in an incident, how far back you can go for backups. The final piece of the puzzle is crisis management. Crisis management can be defined as the nature of activities carried out in response to a major threat to a person, group or organisation. Crisis management, unlike the other two, often deals with events that were not foreseen. Crisis management is often how people deal with things, not the plan set out to do it. Previously we spoke of risks. Here are some examples of risks and how they relate. We've got fire, water, earth such as earthquakes, power, cyber attacks and hardware failures. Business continuity aims to mitigate these risks and in their occurrence provide a means for the company to return to normal activity. Disaster recovery aims to resolve issues in the event of one of these risks. An example could be a fire in the data centre. Data recovery must happen. Crisis management deals with risk when it is unexpected. It is the process of dealing with unexpected risks.
Compliance can be defined as a means of conforming to a rule or set of rules and regulations such as a specific policy, standard, or law. Regulatory compliance describes the goal that organizations aspire to achieve in their efforts to ensure that they are aware of and take steps to comply with relevant laws and regulations. So why do businesses need to comply? One of the first reasons is the avoidance of criminal charges, this being the most significant reason for compliance in a business, as no business ever wants to face any kind of criminal charges. The second reason is to build a positive and credible reputation. The success of all businesses more or less depends on its public image. So when a company starts facing multiple court cases, the general public will lose trust in the business as they would now look at them as untrustworthy companies. The third reason is to increase productivity within the company, as internal compliance to safety, wages, employee benefits, compensation, and employee protection will create a positive environment in the work area. To effectively manage compliance, management must understand the requirements and ensure that their organizations are aligned to the business objectives and regulatory landscape. Once the overall view of the business is understood, a strategy can be developed and implemented. The key to success often comes from ensuring all business disciplines and activities are identified and mapped.
We're now going to talk you through and tell you why it's a good idea to conduct business continuity on your organisation. Here are some recent articles from the news to give you an example as to how things can go wrong. Recently in Brazil, the floods have cost billions of dollars for the country and the companies involved. Cyber attacks are quite often and leave companies very vulnerable. Here you can see that TalkTalk itself was hit recently in a cyber attack. This has cost the company not only money, but it's harmed their reputation. Here are also some facts and figures to help you understand why business continuity is effective for companies. According to the SunGuard Availability Services, in 2014, disruption due to technological failures have more than doubled, increasing by 140%. It was also found in a survey conducted by Timico that 30% of companies estimate that the cost per minute of downtime in the organisation fell into the £10,000 to £20,000 bracket. Now that we've seen some of the ways a company can be effective, we're going to talk you through some of the ways that business continuity actually benefits the organisation itself. Conducting a business continuity study allows you to see the aims and objectives of your organisation better, along with the critical functions involved. This means that you're more able to deal with your customers and what they need and how the employees you have affect them. A BC plan also makes investors and stakeholders more willing to change. They know that in the case of change, when something does go wrong, that there's a plan in place to counteract it. When there is downtime, it not only damages the data they possess, the company, the data warehouses, but it also damages the reputation of the organisation. Although there are a lot of benefits to conducting business continuity, there are also some issues involved. For example, implementation. If the wrong kind of consultancy is hired to carry out the business continuity, often they may create risks that were not present before. They'll focus on the wrong activities and functions. Expectations can also lead into a bad track for businesses, as carrying out business continuity means that they believe that they're protected against threats that they haven't even planned for. This leads to lack of future improvement. Employees often do not wish to get involved with business continuity. They don't understand the benefits and therefore don't carry out their roles correctly. Resources. With resources, often companies believe that the time and money spent is better spent elsewhere, but in the long run it's actually more cost effective to invest in business continuity.
Here I will talk about the risks and the impacts they have on TalkTalk. The table shows the impact of some risks, but also the likelihood of these risks. We have listed human error 3 times in the matrix, as the nature of the error will determine the impact. For example, if an engineer accidentally unplugs the wrong wire when changing over a server, it could have a severe impact on TalkTalk. On the other hand, an employee in charge of the payroll system may input the wrong wage. This will have a low impact on TalkTalk. The graph shown on this slide shows the estimated likely sources of security incidents. Hackers are seen as the highest percentage of security incidents, whereas current employees are seen as more of a risk than former employees. We have also found risks which TalkTalk Group have identified themselves. They see competition increasing as a high risk, as it can affect their financial performance. However, they have also listed the provision of television services could give themselves a competitive advantage in the broadband market. In the next 2 slides, we have created the following matrix. We have listed some specific risks and given them a hazard rating. We have also commented on the likelihood of this happening, as well as mitigation methods. The highest hazard rating we have is customer payment information being compromised. This has already happened before, so it is vital TalkTalk does not let that happen again, as this will have a greater impact than the first time. A medium impact risk which we have identified is the customer detail system being down. This can impact customer service level and also product delivery. Engineers going on strike is a high impact risk, however the likelihood of this happening is very low. Keeping on top of staff morale by offering incentives and collecting general feedback can reduce the likelihood of this event. Whereas losing customer browsing history data has low impact but also has a low likelihood, TalkTalk should keep regular backups to avoid this.
TalkTalk has a number of server rooms, each containing fan cooling systems to regulate the temperature of the servers in order to keep them from overheating. To prevent data loss as a result of a fire, most of the server rooms have clones that would essentially replace the servers, thus ensuring data recovery at all times. The majority of the servers run on Red Hat Linux, as Windows has proved to be increasingly unstable when tested in HPC environments. TalkTalk has a single contact window with integrated management with management services. Amongst their servers are application servers, where all the applications are installed on, with on-site support from their engineers who are there to solve any problems and further maintain them. TalkTalk has an integrated help desk with a call center, incident management, and 24/7 standby technical support. There are various devices on site, such as desktops and laptops, all interconnected to their internet, secured with a solid firewall, which prevents outside attacks that could harm the company.
System and logical failings. Duplication of equipments and diverse transmission routings are created, whereby if a route is interrupted or interfered, there will be alternative routes to divert into, which will make the resilience of the architecture of the servers more sufficient. However, not all parts of the network can be made resilient, and so other measures have had to be considered to strengthen the process of repair and restoration. Each concentrator combines, which is a combination of digital signals together, combined to create a single link to allow the switch, i.e. the exchange, can have alternative routings to its local exchange. Each exchange will then be connected to 3 trunks, and these trunks exchanges will communicate with each other. The advantage of this is that alternative paths will be made when certain paths is busy or overcrowded. Software failures. Telecommunication networks heavily rely on software-controlled equipment, and due to the fact that softwares are not invincible to operational failures or errors, this means that if there is an error to occur within the software-controlled equipments, the whole telecommunication network could crash or stop responding altogether. However, a solution to this is using 2 different types of equipment from different suppliers in the network could eliminate the chances of a common node failure. Some exchange equipment also contain the ability to detect software which is not functioning like it should, making a record and starting the offending subsystem. This allows for some functions to still operate if the service being provided is critical.
As BCG, we advise TalkTalk to conduct a business impact analysis in order to ensure that their organization's information systems and data can survive a disaster. In order to do this, their security managers need to conduct various disaster recovery projects in order to identify critical information systems, tasks, processes, and further define in what order and how they must be recovered after disaster. We would also identify prevention methods with the intention of minimizing the likelihood of these incidents occurring. We would further identify high risks and work on the contingencies to eradicate future disasters as a way of being more proactive than reactive. We would carry out practice drills to train employees of what to do in certain scenarios and also measure the success of the recovery plans. We'd also ensure that TalkTalk has the required data recovery experts to handle and take care of the different types of data losses that businesses could face, namely physical damage to the storage devices, media errors, and corrupt partitions and file systems, as well as online data recovery.
Broken or damaged communication towers is an example of a minor risk. They could be damaged purposely or by accident. For example, vandals may damage it purposely, or it may be damaged in a lightning storm. Immediately, what we'd do is we'd send a technician to assess the damage. In the short term, we'd replace or repair if the damage is unrepairable, and we'd try to reroute communication if possible. In the long term, what we'd do is improve maintenance protection, apologise to customers, and back to normal testing. In the event of a major hardware failure, TalkTalk can use the following strategy to minimise the impact on the business. To immediately reduce impact, they can move over to a hot site. A hot site will allow them to operate as usual, but at another location. A hot site is an expensive option, but a business the size of TalkTalk can afford to use this option, and it is also useful in various disaster scenarios. After swapping over to the hot site, they will need to repair or replace the original server as soon as possible, as they cannot risk using the hot site for an extended period in case of other issues developing. In the long run, they will need to look at what caused the failure and how they can reduce the chance of this happening again. Furthermore, they will need to apologise to customers and possibly hand out goodwill gestures to improve customer morale.